Good morning, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back for another episode of our podcast here on Memorial Day, Monday morning, one day after the Nebraska Cornhuskers won the Big Ten Baseball Championship. So we're going to talk about their epic run, maybe look at the projections a little bit, look ahead to the NCAA tournament. Before we do that, please make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future content. Make sure you guys are checking out HuskerBigRed.com as well. And Danny, how you doing this morning, man?
Good. Just wrapped up a weekend of baseball coverage. I didn't write anything because, quite honestly, it was nice not to have to write for a couple days, but getting back into it. And on the subject of Memorial Day, thank you to all those who have served and continue to serve. Your sacrifices are appreciated so we can enjoy things like baseball games and doing this podcast and, a lot of things on a larger scale. So we appreciate all the sacrifices that the military men and women have made to keep us safe and free, and to those who've made sacrifices for our ability to be free.
Well said, my man. Well said. But yeah, how did you enjoy the Big Ten tournament this weekend? A pretty crazy run. I definitely didn't think Nebraska was going to be holding up the trophy after that 15-2 loss on the opening round. So I mean, just how improbable was that? I guess from your perspective.
Well, first off, it taught me that I should have started watching baseball a lot sooner. So I'll have to remember that next year because that was a lot of fun. It was a crazy run. I mean, you talk about players who stepped up. You know, that it was both the pitching and the hitting that kind of carried the day. You had, Will Walsh, you had Drew Christo, you had, Brett Sears coming in at the end, especially to clinch that. And when you looked at how the week started, you thought, oh no, there's no way they can get this done. But they were able to really kind of find the bats, and the bats got hot. And, it was a truly improbable run. And honestly, I thought Penn State's pitcher yesterday, whose last name I can't remember, but I thought he did a really solid job. And so I was a little bit worried, but the bats came alive at the end. And then the Swanson double in the top of the ninth sealed the deal. So overall, I thought it was a really successful weekend.
Yeah, you have to give a ton of credit to the pitching because, I mean, going 5 straight days, it was going to take some guys doing things they don't normally do. And so to get, 17 innings from Will Walsh and Jackson Brockett, I think they gave up like 3 runs in those 17 innings. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, that was an incredible effort. I think, Will Bolt was probably just hoping for, a few innings from, Jackson Brockett yesterday. And he just kept going, kept getting outs. He made the perfect move to bring in Brett Sears at the end. But yeah, I mean, the Josh Caron home run I thought was the real turning point. I mean, they were not in trouble, but you just felt like, Penn State had the momentum and the pitcher was really getting it done. And so for him to come through with yet another homer was incredible. You had the clutch stolen base, which I thought he was out when he first I can't remember who it was. I think it was Sanderson. But I thought that, just by my bare eye, I thought he was out, even though the called him safe. So I thought they were going to change it on the review, and it was just a perfect slide.
I thought we got lucky there, yeah.
Yeah, but he made a tremendous slide with the back foot, got it in there, and great call by the umpire. I got to give him credit because I was like, oh man, he actually he got that right. And so just an ideal situation. And then for a second there, I got confused because I'm used to Nebraska being the home team, and I forgot that I thought it was the bottom of the ninth, so I thought that Swanson walked him off, and then I was like, oh yeah, we still have to get 3 outs, and I thought it was perfect time to move to Brett Sears, and I was a little worried with that last batter because I know he's like their best hitter, like Molinari or whatever his name is. That's not his actual name; that's a golfer's last name. But anyway, when he made contact with that one, I was like, oh man, that. But I thought that might be going a little ways, but they got the last out. It was just awesome to see. There's been so many times over the last 10 years that this program, not this program, but just Nebraska in general, especially, outside of like volleyball, when's the last time this team like won a tournament championship, like this in a men's sport, in something like this fashion. So it was really great to see. And I felt a little bit, the curse maybe of the Nebraska's men's sports lifted a little bit.
Yeah. And, you talk about, You talk about Josh Karen. I mean, you talked about his one home run that kind of lifted the day. It was a weekend of home runs for him. He was an absolute, clutch hitter. Not only did he hit home runs, he sent them to the moon. And so his power really kind of anchored the Nebraska, bats. And like you said, the pitching was absolutely, clutch and outstanding. And it was really kind of interesting just to see, how Nebraska was the visiting team, and yet it felt like a home game. And I believe yesterday that they just announced that the tournament would remain in Omaha through 2027. So, even the visiting teams were praising how the atmosphere was, and how well run the tournament was in Omaha. So that's good news for the tournament moving forward. And I recognized Mike Gambino because he left Boston College for Penn State, and he did a good job for Penn State. I mean, Boston College before, prior to his arrival to Penn State. So, I mean, it's nice to see kind of Gambino get the recognition he deserves as well in a baseball conference that needs to get more recognition in its own right.
Yeah, hopefully they can, win some more in the NCAA tournament. I think that would help, get them more recognition. But yeah, obviously the SEC and the ACC are the big conferences in college baseball. Even some of the smaller conferences in the South too are pretty tough. But the
Mm.
Big Ten did have the second highest. The only conference that beat the Big Ten in terms of championship game attendance was the SEC, and that's because of Nebraska. If Nebraska wouldn't have been in that game, there would have been like 3,000 people there, if that. So just an idea. I mean, it's cool to see that Nebraska fans, come out and support it. I think Matt Rule said, "Hey, if you want to come somewhere and get support and kind of become a star and it's and have a chance to be a part of something truly incredible in terms of the fan base." I mean, Nebraska truly is special. There is no fan base, in my opinion, like Nebraska. I thought that that's been true for the last 30-40 years, and it's just different. It just means more, and you could see that yesterday. I mean, it was awesome to see all the guys celebrating. It was incredible to see Greg Sharp to get to celebrate that championship and hugging Will Bolt after. So it was just so many great moments. I loved seeing Brett Sears, throw the glove, and it was just great to see the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year kind of close it down. But some of these other guys too that have struggled, like Drew Christo and Will Walsh, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean even Brockett, who had such a terrible outing in the first game, for them all to come back and redeem themselves, it was really awesome. In terms of the NCAA tournament, where that is ending up, Nebraska did not get a regional. They did not host a regional, which, I mean, I'm not surprised. I didn't think they were going to. I was hoping they'd get some consideration, but they just lost too many of those midweek games to Kansas and Kansas State and Creighton. If they'd won some more of those, probably would have been more of a possibility. But the last projection I saw had them in the same bracket, I think, is the number 10 seed, Oklahoma, or the number 9 seed, according to D1 Baseball. And they would be the number 2 seed. And I would not be bothered by that as long as they avoid some of those SEC teams at the top. That would
Right.
be good. I saw them that they were like in the same bracket as the number 2 or number 3 overall seed, and that, to me, that would be disrespectful. I mean, they should be, because the closer they're down to number 16, the closer they are to a number 1 seed. So I think they should at least be in the bracket of like the 10 to 15 range, somewhere in there, as the number 2.
Yeah, and you look at how this bracket could potentially shape out, and you look at the timing of how hot the bats got over the course of this last week, and you feel a little bit confident. I mean, Karen is coming off a record-setting 6 home runs in the tournament, and the pitching is kind of working as well as we saw this weekend. So if there was ever a time to feel confident about this team, it's right now. I mean, it seems like they found their way throughout the course of this weekend, and they also showed that they could battle through adversity. They became the first team since 1995 to lose the first game and then win the Big Ten championship. So they understand what it takes to win, tough, postseason tournament games and things like that. So overall, I think there was a lot to be optimistic about this week.
Yeah, I think when you look at this team too, the pitching, I think, is one reason that I think that they're going to have a good chance. And start on Friday this tournament. You got Sears, you got McConaughey, who were 2 of the best pitchers in the Big Ten. They were 1 and 3 in terms of ERA in the Big Ten this year. So, I mean, your first two starters you're going to feel good about, and then a lot of it does come into depth, depending on how you do. But Will Walsh, Brockett, some of those guys, I still worry about the bullpen and stuff, but the lineup is going really well right now. Those guys are hitting, the offense is playing as well as they have all year. So I don't think they're going to be an easy out. I definitely don't believe that at all. I mean, even I think the Purdue head coach or one of the teams they beat was like, yeah, this team has what it takes to, make a long run in the regional. So I definitely think they're going to be a difficult out. I mean, beating them 2 times. So, I mean, if you throw Brett Sears out there, I mean, for that first game, and you have a really good opportunity maybe to win that. Those first two are the most important, really, because you got to, if you're Nebraska and you're a 2 seed, you'd be beating the 3 seed, then you play the 1 seed, in that next game. And if you win that one, then they have to turn around and beat you twice if they get back to that point. So those first 2 games are really critical. I mean, Nebraska showed a team can be beaten twice like they did to Indiana, but I really feel good about their pitching depth and momentum, as we know in baseball. I mean, momentum really can carry you forward. I remember Michigan, which was the last, I believe, Big Ten team to make the College World Series in 2019. They were a very similar. They actually weren't going to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid, but won the Big Ten championship and just kept rolling. So hopefully Nebraska can take that same mindset and use that momentum and get back to Omaha. That would be incredible. If this team gets to Omaha for the College World Series,
Yeah.
watch out. I mean, watch out. That's all I'm saying.
And you saw this weekend guys like Walsh and Brockett, going deep into games and giving the bullpen a little bit of rest. So you're hoping for similar situations on Friday, because the more they rest the bullpen, the better. And I would love it if they made it to Omaha, and one step at a time. But what it's crazy what can change in a week. We went from, well, I didn't want to necessarily, but some of us wanted to fire Will Bolt, and now all of a sudden we're talking about the NCAA regionals as Big Ten tournament champions. So it just goes to show how strong this week was, and how much optimism this program gave the fans and themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely needed to make the NCAA tournament this year. So, I mean, I felt like whether they won or lost this week, they were still going to be. He wasn't going to really be on the hot seat, but he's definitely not now. And winning a championship like that as a coach definitely is going to buy you some time and just give you some more momentum going forward. And I think this program is in a nice place, and it's just going to be they're trying to upgrade Haymarket Park, good Lord. So that would be another good thing, and invest more into it. I mean, there's a reason that the SEC and the ACC dominate, because they treat baseball a little bit differently. So if you want to win like those teams, you got to invest in it. And that's one thing Nebraska is not afraid to do, is invest in their athletic programs. So I believe the NCAA bracket is announced sometime today. Sorry, I don't know exactly when that's going to be announced. I want to say maybe tonight. And we'll see where the Huskers go. I really hope it's not Texas A&M again. I know they're one of the host seeds, so I really don't want to see them take on Texas A&M. Like I said, I'd like to avoid one of those SEC teams, because they are very difficult in college baseball.
Absolutely, and it would be poetic, wouldn't it? A little bit. Texas A&M basketball, Texas A&M in baseball. I mean, I wonder why. But no, I feel very confident in this team right now, and I feel very confident for the future of this team. And I can remember writing about guys like Drew Christo committing to the program, and now it's coming full circle. And it's just it's been a really fun week and a really fun ride, and it was good to see so many people watching. I had people tell me they were watching on a boat in Florida. Someone told me that they were watching from Portugal. So Husker Nation really is everywhere, and it was good to see this bring everybody together.
Yeah, it was cool to see that. Yeah, it was really awesome to see the crowd. And if the game hadn't been moved up because of possible storms, there would have been even more people there. So it was fun to see that. Hopefully the Huskers can keep things rolling into the NCAA tournament. And it'll be fun, though. I mean, baseball is a really fun sport to get into. I kind of like that part of college baseball, that the season doesn't last, like forever, a million years like the MLB does. But some people like that too. They like the 162 game aspect of it. But
I personally don't, but That's me.
Gets a
Yeah.
little long for me, but yeah, whatever. You can't change it at this point, I guess.
No.
So
No.
it's just is what it is. It's like the 82 games with the NBA. It's way too many. Plus 48 minutes is just too long, in my opinion. But
That's why I'm a football
um,
guy.
so I was just going to mostly focus on the baseball thing. I did want to touch on one other thing. I remembered Quinn Clark. I think he's worth talking about. He had an incredible weekend. He jumped 6'8", I think, in long jump. Let me double check here. Might have been 6'6". I was there. I just can't remember. Yeah,
I was
six
gonna say,
eight.
for those who don't know, Chris was there covering the meet, so that's why I didn't
Yeah,
see
well,
us on
it was
Saturday.
insane. So I mean, I know that you guys don't really care, but there's 17 track events. There's 34 all class events, and 8 of the between boys and girls, and there were 8 all class records set at the meet. So it was pretty incredible. But Quinn Clark, he didn't set a record, but he did jump a 6'8", and then he had a 23-1 in the long jump, and then a 46.6 in the triple jump. 6'6", he ran 4'4". I talked to him. I didn't really talk to him about any Nebraska stuff, but I mean,
Mm,
he's definitely a guy to watch. And I think he has a chance to do a lot more than people are expecting. I mean, this guy is one of the most athletic players I've ever seen. I mean, I think he's, even though we have like Malachi Coleman and stuff. I mean, he's very similar to Malachi Coleman. And maybe if he played somewhere else, he'd have a higher, more a better ranking.
mm.
Um, because the competition's not super great in Montana. Nothing against Montana kids. They're getting better and better, but you just don't see the depth that you'd see even in a place like Nebraska. But I'm very excited to see what Quinn Clark can do. And man, if you haven't seen the high jump video, just what I mean, this dude gets up 6'8" and he jumps 6'6", and he gets up 6'8" in the high jump. Like, my God, it's
Absolutely crazy.
crazy. I'm just
So
sitting there, being like, man, this is going to be fun to watch Dylan Raiola throw some jump balls to this kid.
yeah, he's a guy that I feel like is getting slept on a little bit when you talk about the wide receiver room, and there's a lot of good wide receivers, so it's kind of not easy to see why, but it's understandable. But Quinn Clark is definitely a sleeper for the 2024 class I'm curious to see how he does, and I think he'll be a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, just another. It's really interesting to see with like Carter Nelson, McMorris, all these guys who are kind of the track standouts. So there's definitely something to that. It's good to see them, kind of prioritizing those guys. And yeah, there's not a ton of stuff really happening, I guess, with recruiting. There's going to be some visits coming up. I think it's going to start like next weekend. So
Yeah,
definitely.
this upcoming month that we're gonna have a lot of recruiting news.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be an important month, with recruiting, and I guess while we're just on that topic, so we don't really have a ton of things to talk about. Just kind of a last thing to round out today. Who are like your top, top 3 or 4, 5 guys, 2025 recruits who aren't committed that really are, some top priorities that you think Nebraska needs to land?
Let's see. Ooh, this is a tough one because there's so many. Uh, Probably Jamarian Parker. I would love to see Nebraska get Jamarian Parker. When you take a look at some of these wide receivers, I mean, I kind of want all of them, but I understand we can't get all of them. So, you know, just looking down the list here, I would really, really love a guy like Cortez Mills. I forgot his name there for a second, but Cortez Mills. I mean, I know he's kind of a long shot because Miami's interested in him, and all these other teams are interested in him. But I would love Cortez Mills. And then, when you take a look at those June visits, and stuff like that, I would I would also probably say, I don't know, I'm torn between Michael Terry and Dawson Merritt, because if we land Mills, we probably don't get Terry. I don't see us getting both, but I would like a guy like Merritt to kind of, shore up the pass rush aspect of things. He can, get to the quarterback quickly, and he can make plays with his athleticism and disrupt plays in the backfield. So I guess Mills, Terry, and Merritt would be my 3. I mean, I know I said Parker, but now that I think about it more, probably Mills, Terry, Merritt.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, you know, Michael Terry would definitely make my. I would say Michael Terry. I would say Jamarian Parker because I do think they need a legitimate running back, a blue chip running back. I would add on Chase Lofton and then Christian Jones, and then yeah, I would probably throw Dawson Merritt in there. Actually, no, I'm not gonna go Dawson Merritt. I would say Broderick Shaw because I really think they need to add, another lead offensive tackle. So I'm not going to throw David Sanders in there because I don't think Nebraska's going to get him. I know that Steve Wiltfong and Chad Simmons, they didn't like do predictions, but they were asked like, where do you think that David Sanders will go in like a Q&A, and they both said Tennessee, which is where he's visiting soon. So it feels to me like that recruitment's shifting. I mean, I know Nebraska created some buzz, but if they don't get him, I feel like it's like the Brandon Baker thing. They got him on here, and that was great, but I don't think they have a great chance. But Broderick Scholl would be my guy, along with Parker Lofton. Christian Jones still hasn't set up an official visit, and then Michael Terry, who I just think is out of him and Cortez Mills, I think they have a better chance with Terry. So if I had my choice, it might be Cortez Mills. I mean, that's a pretty tough one. I mean, that's like separating the children type thing in the biblical scenario. Cortez Mills or Michael Terry, but I would just say Terry because I feel like they're in a little better standing with him right now. But but it also shows. I mean, you still have Cortez Mills, Dawson Merritt, David Sanders, some guys that I didn't even mention. Pierce Mooberry is another guy in state. So there's a lot of really great targets on the board, which is a great thing for the Huskers. A lot of them are coming in next month. Jalen Williams, another defensive lineman that I really want them to get. So yeah, but those are some of my top guys. And you know what? I think out of the top five, at least that I listed and the ones that you listed, I still think they have at least, a reasonable chance of landing all those guys. So that's a positive thing.
And I'm curious to see where they're going to end up with Emmanuel Carmo, the Minnesota, commitment who Nebraska is trying to kind of land. I know he set up some visits in the coming months, and the visit list includes Ohio State and Wisconsin, and it's going to be a tough get. But at the same time, Carmo would be a tremendous get at the linebacker position. Again, he kind of plays off the edge. He disrupts plays in the backfield. So I'm curious to see how close they are in terms of landing Carmo, and I think getting him from the state of Minnesota as the top player in Minnesota would be nice as well.
Yeah, he would be a nice one to get to, and yeah, they're definitely doing some work there. So keep an eye on kind of the recruiting stuff. We'll be keeping you guys updated at huskerbigred.com and also here on the podcast. We're going to be back with another episode on Thursday, kind of changing up our schedule a little bit this week just to give you guys a shout out. And then we're also going to be kind of suspending the Saturday chats for a while until we get into the fall camp, just with our summer schedules and stuff. Really more till we're going to kind of resume those when we get to preseason, back to the games, pre-game chats. That's kind of how we first kind of rolling with them. So just to give you guys a shout out on that, I think we're going to start doing 3 videos a week. So just to give you guys a heads up, but we'll be back, like I said, on Thursday with another episode. So please like the video, hit the subscribe button, and check out huskerbigred.com. Enjoy your Memorial Day. Thank you to everybody who served this great country. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.